Powered by Noble L Works, just outside of Anaheim Stadium and the Pond, or the Honda Center, where you can get drink specials just by mentioning Halos in the Infield. Also brought to you in part by 714 Tickets. 714 Tickets. 714 Tickets is a place to go to get 10% off of any ticket purchase just by also mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome in on a Monday evening. I am Todd Fox, along with the one and only
Dominic Lorenz from Catella Chronicles in the house this evening.
Yes, sir. And then Rob, he's not on camera yet, or if he is at all, but he's there. You want to say hi?
What's happening, guys?
There you go. Rob is going to bring his expertise. We all are, actually, because right now, guys, there's been a lot of news going on with our former ex-girlfriend, Shohei Otani. And we're spying on our exes in this segment, but it's crazy, right? With everything that's going on, we're all going to give our takes on what we think it's happened. And it's changing by the day. The big question will be handled at the end about the suspension and what our thoughts are, if there is one, if there's not. But first things first, I want to get your guys' opinion on what was said today or what was not said by one Shohei Otani. Who wants to go first on this?
You know, I think at the end of the day, it was just not what we expected. But at the same time, it was what we expected. It was a typical lawyer-written assessment of, I'm just going to make this statement, call it a day, take no questions, have no cameras, and just look like the innocent victim of, I got $4.5 million stolen from me out of nowhere. Ippei was probably with them as much as anybody else since the time he started with the Angels. And you really look at it in the sense of, you claimed he was your best friend. He was your interpreter. You went to other sporting events together. You worked out together. You went to dinners together. You went to the beach together. And you didn't know a guy had access to your bank accounts for $4.5 million? Like, for me, if $20 goes missing in my account, I'm up in arms. $4.5 million, I'm like, someone's going to get murdered at this point. Like, that is insane to me. So, you know, for initial thoughts on it, for at least from the press conference today, I wasn't surprised by what we got, especially when we heard there was going to be no cameras and he wasn't taking questions. That was the easy cop-out answer to trying to make Otani look as innocent as possible.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, to build off that, he tried to play the victim, right? Tried to victimize himself the whole time. And like Dominic said, it was interesting to answer the question of how did this all happen? Now, granted, I know wire transfers, how they can work, right? You can extend the limit or lift the limit for the account holders. You need a lot of ID checks. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. Also, you have to file a CTR in order to go ahead and do this so you don't get in trouble from the government. So it doesn't make it look like you're committing a crime of some sort. It's just all smoke, because how do you go from a story where your spokesperson says, oh, no, I lent them the money, and then the lawyers get involved and go, no, you didn't lend money. It was stolen. But this was done last year. So you've been missing $4.5 million for 6 months or so, and you just heard about it this week. I mean, Dominic, you and Randy one time called me out and said champagne problems. Man, that's a champagne problem to have. Hey, I'm missing $4.5 million. I didn't notice. It must be nice, but still, I mean, I don't buy it. He has financial people. He has his own bank as well, too, I'm sure, where they would have called him and said, hey, are you sure this is a transaction you want to make? Because at the end of the day, your bank sees where your money is going. And they do understand everything, too. So
I think it just makes Shohei Otani look so aloof to everything. It really shows us how many big people are really behind the scenes, maybe either controlling his money, doing things, and he's really just a figurehead to playing baseball, and everything else that happens off the field, he's maybe not in control of, or he allows the wrong people to look after his stuff. So maybe he's like, champagne problems, $4.5 million. I'll make that back in a couple of, ads for new, sporting equipment. Who the heck knows at this point?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, either it's one of those things that, Dominic described as far as him just being like, oh, okay, baseball, and I go home to my wife. But I tend not to agree with that. I think that, he's smarter than that. I mean, look, we get alerts when we use our apps or our, bank alerts, like, hey, $5 was purchased here at Wendy's. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like if I'm getting a notification for $5, imagine $495,000 or $500,000, whatever it was. And that's multiple times, dude. And you heard him today. And I thought a key thing that was said was when he said, well, my people, you know, I reached out to my people. So his people most likely have an idea who his sponsors are, who you know, does his pool, who how much furniture he's getting, you know, the cars purchases, account. He has accountants. Come on. You have to.
As a multimillionaire, it doesn't matter if you're an athlete or not. But Todd, you bring up a good point to segue for a minute. In a car, is anybody wondering how the money was loaned to buy Joe Kelly's wife a Porsche? Was that off of Ippei's betting odds on a football game this fall? I wonder.
Parlay.
Yeah, it could be a parlay bet for a Porsche. You never know. Hey, if you could parlay a Porsche, we all got to string our money together and somehow get it like a Halos in the Infield Porsche. Can we do that?
Cool. Or at least a mystery man, something, right?
Yeah, right.
But to finish my point, I was just thinking that, you know, with all these people being able to have, you know, access to your account, you know, someone would have picked up on it at some point. And I just find it hard to believe that nobody said anything to him and that Ippei is the one to break the news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe. I mean, you sign in from a different account or a different computer, your bank alerts you right away that an unknown network or VPN has just signed into your bank. So, especially with moving $500,000 9 times, I mean, you missed 9 transactions that your bank didn't do it. You got to switch banks then.
Well, you got to switch banks, yes, but another key part of the press conference today was in his statement. He said when Ippei addressed the team after game 1 in Korea, Ippei was speaking in English to the entire Dodgers organization. Otani was listening, but he didn't have somebody else translating what Ippei was saying. So he was kind of piecing and parsing what Ippei was saying. So he's like, I didn't understand everything he was saying, but I understood enough. And it's like, are you telling me you're that out of the loop? Because I know the conversation when Otani was an Angel was, can he finally just speak English? We know he can. We know he's done some smaller interviews with English. But you're telling me what Ippei's telling the entire clubhouse, you only understood parts of what he was saying?
I called BS on that.
That was where I called one of the biggest BSs of the day, because even the interpreter that was speaking for Otani today kind of looked and was, fake writing down the notes. And even he kind of looked like, oh, I got to translate that now. Like something's not adding up in certain things. Like, I'm not going to jump off the bridge and say, did Otani bet and is he lying about betting? That could be a whole nother conversation. But some of the small nuances about the communication between he and Ippei doesn't sound right.
If I may, too, come on that. If you really did not know what he was saying, why didn't you go over next to Yamamoto, stand next to him, and whatever his interpreter was saying, he can translate for both of you? Because don't tell me there's different dialects as well. I'm not sure if there is Japanese, so people don't crucify me on this. But I'm sure you'd be able to understand the gist from Yamamoto's interpreter, because we know Ippei was not the interpreter for both guys.
Yeah, and I think so too. Todd, what do you think?
I was just going to say, all you had to do is look at a Facebook or Instagram post when the Angels and Dodgers first hooked up the other night, and you saw, what is it? It was the closer. I keep forgetting his name.
Estevez?
Yeah, Estevez, and it was another player talking with Otani. No interpreter around. So, yep. They could talk English, and he knows a little Spanish too.
Yep.
So I don't want to hear that he can't, relate. He always needs an interpreter. What I believe comes down to these interpreters in Major League Baseball, in soccer, in any sport, is the fact that, because even, I obviously am with an Honduran, my fiance, and she has a heavy accent, and sometimes she's just feels better talking in her native Spanish because she feels like her accent comes off a little weird. Someone might make fun of it. That's how I know, like, sports fans, and she explained it to me, how they are kind of vain when it comes to that. So I can understand, like, talking to the media, but damn well they talk to other players out there. I mean, you don't see Otani on first base with Freeman, when he was an Angel, and they were just jawing it up for like minutes while the pitcher was in between pitches, and them not understanding each other. That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think at that point, again, if Otani knows Spanish, or at least enough, and he's communicated with Mike Trout on how many occasions during his tenure with the Angels. I'm pretty sure if Trout and Otani had conversations on the phone, Ippei wasn't on the other line communicating with him as well. So there's got to be times, you can only eat, sleep, and shit so many times with your interpreter. There's only so many opportunities to do that. So there's got to be some leeway in the sense of you've been in America for X amount of time. You've been with the Angels for X amount of time. And this is even during the Angels tenure, not even before going to the Dodgers. You've been in California in general for now 7+ years. You got to have picked up something in the 7 years, because in the offseason, don't tell me you didn't whip up Babbel on your iPhone and learn a little, English at some point. Come on, there's got to be something going on.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I agree with that. You can't give a speech for the MVP in English and then come back and say that you don't know what they were saying about certain things. And you see the interactions. Even tonight, you saw him when he almost got hit by Detmer's pitch. You saw him talk to the bat boy saying that was close.
Yeah, and he's joking with Shawnuel over at first.
Yeah,
there's some nuances. I think, the interpreters are used to speed the process up. And I think, when you have a mound visit that's 90 seconds, you can't wait all day to translate. And if there's miscommunication, that could hurt the product on the field.
That's true.
I get that.
Yeah.
So I think if you speed things up, like we saw Jose Suarez, he has an interpreter. There's some Hispanic guys on the team that have an interpreter. There's many different elements that need an interpreter. And especially if you're a pitcher, that's one thing. Now, I don't know how interpreters work in the sense of positional players, because I know the Red Sox have that Japanese or Korean outfielder. And, most Japanese players that have come in, the majority of them are pitchers, Yu Darvish, and, the list goes on and on. So I think it's just to speed up the process at the end of the day for mound visits and any other communication.
True. I'm like, for me though, when it comes down to like Otani, like today, like it would have been great. I understand he had a translator there. He could have took some questions, but when it comes down to everything that's now clouded around him, he has to be more safe than anything. Yep. My only thing is this, guys. If any of this is found to be true in a way that he had information, or Ippei had insider information, or say, for instance, that they can prove those wire transfers and everything that comes along with this, just any bit. I mean, how bad is this going to make Otani look in the long run to fans? I mean, this guy is bringing the world together to like him. I mean, I remember last year we were like, dude, Otani is like untouchable as far as you can't hate him. Like, we knew he was going to leave the Angels, and everyone was like, yeah, but you can't hate the guy. He's been nothing but good. Yeah. And not saying that, but I mean, like, this is going to put a lot of tarnish on him if any of this is true, right? Or if he can be implicated in any way.
I think personally, MLB is going to do everything they can to make Otani come out of this clean, because they know what their number one revenue generator is at the end of the day. He's now in the LA market, the true LA market with the Dodgers, and MLB does not want to screw that up. They already kind of got screwed a little bit going to Korea and having this cloud over the 2-game Korea series with the Padres. And you're going to have all the marquee matchups. Now, Otani's not going to pitch this year, so they can't promote him as the two-way player. That starts next year when he hits and pitches, if whatever his recovery timeline is from his Tommy John surgery. But I think MLB and Rob Manfred's going to do everything they can to put as little heat on Otani as possible. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing that could go against Otani is if he was knowing and willing to sign over the waiver to the accounts to pay off Ippei's debts. I don't know legally what that means, but isn't that a conspiracy to whatever, or whatever the legal jargon is, because you're willing and able to go and align yourself with potentially a criminal in Ippei?
What do you think, Rob?
I mean, I see baseball sweeping this under the rug, right? Minimum, especially if he didn't bet on baseball. And so far, from what we've been told, and this is coming from the bookie itself, is that he did not. right? And everyone mentioned Zach Cozart and everything, what they did. It was an undisclosed fine. Otani wanted a big market team, but with that comes big market issues and media. So this is the media coverage is there. I mean, I'm sure it's not what he wanted. I'm sure he wishes this would have happened last year when he's on the Angels, right? Because it'd been bare minimum. People would have been talking about it and hating on the Angels. And by the way, I have to add, it is not a shock that the Angels didn't vet Ippei 100% on these things. It's kind of just like talks about the franchise as a whole. So he didn't go to UCR, they're claiming. We don't know if that's true or not. That's what they're supposedly been told from a source. But the Boston Red Sox thing, that's an issue. I get it. Guys lie on the resume. People lie on the resume, trying to make themselves look good. Try to see, hey, go ahead and call my bluff. And some people do, and some people do not. The Angels happen to be the team that never does. They never go and vet somebody. They never go and check up on somebody. Hey, what is the issue with this person? Like, why are they floating around? Of course,
Correct.
But typical Artie Moreno. But anyways, it's difficult. Yes, Otani, what he did break the law. If he did this, right? If he did sports betting, it's illegal in the state. Paying that much money is also illegal as well without declaring it. So there's a couple of things he can do there, nothing of which would disbar him from baseball.
Well, okay, so then let me put it to you this way. Then another thing that popped out during the press conference was like he had no idea that Ippei had a gambling problem. Now, I don't care who you are. I don't care even if you're blind. No, someone that racks up a $4.5 million, loss in gambling. At some point when you're living with a guy or a woman, you're eating with a person, you're interacting with them on a daily basis. How does that not come up once? Because again, we've heard stories. I've heard a manager at a restaurant, a Thai restaurant, not too far from here in Garden Grove, tell me, hey, look at this picture. I got Otani and Ippei in here eating dinner. They come through like a couple times a month. So they're out all the time. They're hanging with each other. They're rooming together. How do you not know that about somebody? I can understand if dude's cheating on him or something like that, if they were a couple, but gambling's going to come out there at some point, and he's like, oh, I didn't know he didn't do this either. Like he says, oh, and then Ippei goes, oh, I've never seen Otani, watch another sport. He's at a Ducks game. He's wearing a freaking
he was at a Rams game.
He's wearing a what is it called? A Lamar Jackson jersey in a picture while
he
Zeke Elliott song.
Yeah, he went to a Laker game and was talking up with LeBron after a game. Like, it's okay to like other sports, and the unconfirmed ex-Angel players or the ex-teammates that are on the Angels are like, all he cared about was baseball. It's like, I find that hard to believe because we know other players love other sports. That's just innate behavior. We all like sports. We all like watching. We all have favorite teams. So it's okay to admit that. Just because you like other sports, if you're in or playing a professional other sport, doesn't automatically assume that you're gambling those other games or other sports that you like to watch. That's just you're a fan. So I think it's, again, to take the heat off him, because if he says, oh, yeah, I loved watching the Rams or the Los Angeles Lakers, then everybody's going to be like, okay, let's go to the bookies records and see how many times Ippei betted on Laker games. And I really think that the media would have taken that and run with it.
Probably.
Yeah.
I know there was an article, and I don't know what the confirmed sources were, but I know David Fletcher's name came up a little bit with some poker games, and that's how, I don't know if it's Fletcher introduced the bookie to Ippei, or there was some sort of connection through poker games when the Angels were at home and sometimes when they're on the road. So the only ex-player that's been involved in this in some capacity was David Fletcher, who's now, of course, in the Atlanta Braves organization. Does that factor into any of this as well, like when dealing with poker?
No, right? I don't think this does, because this is just with the bookie itself. The poker and all that stuff, that's just going to be – I think that's just hearsay at that point in time. And those MLB players, true or not, I don't think they're going to fess up to it, because you're going to open up a huge can of worms and all that stuff. And those guys kind of have that unspoken rule. You don't really talk about it, because we know what happens on the planes, right? You hear these stories, the NFL, NBA, MLB, there's gambling going on. What else are you going to do in a 5-hour plane ride?
Two words, Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
We all saw it. Like, come on.
Yeah, there's still people that say that they swept him under the rug. You know what I mean? Like when he went for the 2 years, supposedly baseball was his out. That was his suspension. But I don't know, man. I mean, think about it. What would happen to everything? I mean, first you got the deferred money, and you have this whole like $4 to $5 million being missing from his account. Then the Dodgers are all hyped up to have him this year. What if he gets suspended? Like what if there is something? I know you guys seem to think it's going to get, but the feds carry a lot of weight. Do you think, Rob, that they could push the MLB to at least suspend this dude?
No, they can't do anything on that. You're a private entity, right? You're not part of the government. They could bring him up under like RICO charges, money laundering, and everything if he knowingly paid off or helped that bookie collect the debts. Because I'm sure something came up right where he had to pay up, which is why those payments came up, right? You know how it is. We hear the stories, right? Oh, break your legs or you're in some kind of trouble. But I don't know. It's racketeering pretty much. Money laundering, that's the only things. And there's a couple state laws against gambling too, in California especially, because as we all voted on, we lost. If you wanted to gamble, we weren't able to do so. But
Yeah.
I mean, legal trouble, that's the main thing, because he is not a citizen, to my knowledge, at least.
True.
I think he's still on a work visa. And then these here, if you were an average person, would cause your work visa to be revoked and you'd be sent back to your original country normally.
Yeah.
There are extreme circumstances where that does not happen, but he's going to get charged celebrity crime, right? Which I hate because, and don't get me wrong, I'm a firm believer, like I've said before, you're innocent until proven guilty. So as of now, you treat him as an innocent man because we don't know. But there's a lot of things that he could be potentially facing. But as of now, I mean, there's nothing anybody can do. It just, the Department of Justice really has to do it. And then the county DA, and then the state wants to pick it up as well too. There's a whole bunch of little things going on. This is not going to be done this year. This is going to be a year, maybe 2 years by the time we get the full answer to this whole thing.
If they go to court for any reason, does Otani potentially maybe get put on administrative leave like Trevor Bauer was? I know the Trevor Bauer situation was completely different, but does MLB say, okay, there's some charges coming up against you, there's some evidence potentially against you, we got to put you on admin leave while this court case is going on? Is that the only way the feds could inflict the private entity of Major League Baseball to, I guess you could say tip their hand a little bit?
I mean, that'd be collusion. I don't think they would do that, but you're absolutely right. The MLB could do that in order to try to take the pressure off of them in order to grow the game and not lose viewership. But you take Otani out, you're going to lose viewership, period, right? That's what I think personally. I mean, I don't think he should be suspended unless there is damning evidence. Sorry, guys, I said that on live. There's direct evidence linking him to it all. I don't see how you suspend him, because even at that point, they can say, hey, we have evidence, but is it direct linking evidence where it's indisputable? If the answer is no, you're innocent until proven guilty. So you got to let the guy play. That's just my opinion.
Okay, so then what about that rule in the collective bargaining agreement where they say, basically any other sport you can gamble on, and you just can't gamble in, facilities, you know what I mean? Like you can't, if you're outside Angel Stadium across the street on Catella, you can do it, but you can't do it on property of Major League Baseball stadium or any other kind of facility related to your team. If there's anything that relates back to baseball via Ippei, the fact that Otani covered his gambling debt, that is a violation against the collective bargaining agreement, and then that would force Rob Manfred to make a move, correct?
It would, yes. The move, it says undisclosed. It says I believe it's what's deemed by the current commissioner, or I don't know if they call, but there's a board going to go to for discipline wise with the MLBPA as well. But I know it is up to the commissioner on what the actual penalty is overall, and there is no really set standard of what the penalty is. It varies case by case. So whatever commissioner you can get a very harsh punishment like a Pete Rose, or you can get a light punishment like a Zach Cozart. Not that Zach Cozart was ever going to the Hall of Fame or anything, but
no. But look what Rob Manfred did with the whole Houston Astros cheating scandal, and how a lot of that was swept under the rug for the majority. because he, didn't want to throw the players under the bus and really dive deep into that scandal. I think this is a situation where with Rob Manfred having 5 years left in his tenure as commissioner of Major League Baseball, is this probably going to be the last big scandal that he's going to face in the next 5 years? Probably not. There's going to be some stupid player or organization. Hopefully Artie Moreno gets taken down at some point, but that's neither here nor there. But, there's going to be questions no matter what. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to have to sit there and say, if there's a punishment to be had, I still believe because of who Otani is, it's going to be on the lighter side of the punishment if there is a punishment at the end of the day. And if it's a monetary fine, an NDA, kind of undisclosed agreement, I just don't think it will be being suspended and being taken off of the field.
Okay, so the one guy he's been compared to a lot with Pete is Pete Rose. And Pete Rose, we all know, should be the all-time leading hitter, should have been first ballot Hall of Famer, yada, yada, yada. We know what happened to him. We know that he's been banned for life. Probably when he passes away, they'll give it to his kids and they'll let him in. It's one of those things because they said he would never get in while he was alive. With that being said, and the PED scandal from the 90s, early 2000s, I just don't think baseball in a whole will. This is my take on it. I don't think that they are going to let this happen because even if they have insurmountable, evidence, they can't afford to take another hit like this. Baseball's still trying to find their way with TV contracts or streaming contracts, and they're still trying to reach the young kids. I mean, this would blow up social media, and this would turn away any kind of casual fan. Because think about it, all the casual fans that are coming just to see Otani at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that to a point. At the same time, though, you got to look at the adverse effect of it all. If you don't do anything to this guy at all and you let him skate on it, it's going to turn a lot of the fans off. Away. Oh, this guy gets $70 million and bets like crazy and possibly throws games if he's found guilty of it, right? And he doesn't get any penalty at all. And then you have a lockout looming next contract anyways, because these guys are ridiculously paid, in my opinion. Just like Otani kind of set the bar a little too high. And so you're just losing fans on that. And the fans that you're going to lose are all the older fans who could afford these tickets and who buy season seats, who buy the merchandise. Young fans and growing the game is always great. Don't get me wrong. However, normally young fans don't have the financial means to contribute to these teams, and which gets you those ads, which gets you those big TV deals and everything. I think a penalty, if he's found guilty with insurmountable evidence there, not only with federal investigators and the state investigators, but MLB would have to act pretty swiftly here. Even if it's a year off, you have to do something.
Yeah, when you deal with the fans at this point, and Otani set the precedent for a $700 million player, regardless if the money's deferred or not. The whole, we've talked at length about skating around that rule in the new collective bargaining agreement. We're coming to a time in not just baseball, but in sports where it's only a matter of time before a player is going to be paid $1 billion. 10 years, $1 billion, 15 years, but whatever the contract is, it's going to happen. And at that point, it's because of TV deals, other endorsement money, whatever these rich owners figure out in these deals. And I think to set the precedence in that way, and literally just months after making a decision to be the highest paid player, to now have this scandal, regardless if it's true or not true, whatever the limitation is against Shohei Otani, just to have this mark, we're always going to talk about this, regardless, again, if he's innocent, guilty, or in between. So it does kind of take the shine off of what we thought at the beginning, like Todd said, was kind of an untouchable thing for Otani. He's always nice. He's always, about the fans. He's always a team player. He's always, polite. It just makes him, in my opinion, seem a little bit dumb, a little bit aloof, and a little bit, don't want to say this in a negative way, but here we go. Makes him seem like an airhead. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my money. I'm going to trust other people, and I'm just going to move on my merry way and just hit home runs. Like, it just seems like you're not in tune with the world we're living in today, and you're living in a little bit of a fantasy. Maybe $700 million creates that fantasy. hopefully one day we all can learn how $700 million feels. But in coming down to blue collar reality here, it just makes you seem very, very aloof to what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that everyone's trying to figure out, because when you go online, you see all the posts, and there's like questions by Yahoo, by MLB, by ESPN, any kind of like sports page you listen to or follow, and it's crazy how you're seeing about 80 to 90% everyone calling BS. Like he had to have some knowledge. Maybe he's the gambler. There's something against Otani, whereas this guy, like you said, and I said earlier, was untouchable. There was nothing bad to say about the guy. I mean, a lot of Angel fans before this, I know some have turned their backs a little bit, but like even when he left, we all were like, hey, we knew he left. It sucks. We just didn't want him to go there. We still like the guy, but we don't want him to succeed because where he's playing.
Yep.
And now it's just like, I'm like, well, they brought Yamamoto over. They got Otani. They spent about $1 billion on two players, if you think about it. So it's like, I want them to fail now really bad.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't thinking it was like this, though. Maybe this is the start of a domino. Who knows?
Well, I think I think you both said it, and maybe even Rob said it too. It's going to open up Otani to much more under the microscope scrutiny over the next decade with the Dodgers. And I think before this scandal even happened, getting paid $700 million to play a sport is going to put you under the microscope, because let's say the first 9 years of the contract, the Dodgers don't win.
Mm-hmm.
That 10th year, you know how much media scrutiny is going to be there? So I think it's going to put the microscope on top of Shohei Otani 10 times now what it was already going to be. And he hasn't even played, well, he's played 2 regular season games in Korea, but he hasn't played here at a regular season game in the States with the Dodgers quite yet. They haven't been to the playoffs with him yet. He hasn't pitched a game. He hasn't hit a home run here yet for him. So every at-bat is going to be put under scrutiny now. And with that, let's see how much pressure that puts on him to perform at the high level. We saw at the very early onset with the Angels' career, he had some injuries. There were some struggles. Is that how it's going to be with the Dodgers? Or what we all thought potentially he was going to take off immediately, and all the Dodger fans believe we're going to win 3 championships back to back, dynasty, all these things. I wonder what type of microscope this is going to put him under, not having the security blanket of Ippei there anymore, who's been his friend, who's been his roommate. They do everything together. That system is now going to change. Is he going to carry that same type of relationship with his new interpreter? I'm going to highly doubt that now.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, he's going to put up walls, as he should, right? Especially if this is true that it was all stolen and everything. You have to, right? You got to protect yourself first. You're married now. Your life changes a little bit. You have a lot more pressure on you to perform. Whereas, granted, there was pressure with the Angels, but not so much. The fan base loved him. He could have went 0 for 6 one night, and just as long as he got a hit the next day, he was still the greatest guy on earth. And don't get me wrong, he's a great player.
Yeah.
But under this market where you're at now, you're right. There's a dark cloud looming over Dodger Stadium, and this player is going to deal with it day in and day out, because this media is going to be relentless on this. People want answers. And I know why he didn't answer things, because I know he wants his lawyers to set the narrative. He doesn't want to set their narrative himself and say something wrong, like they did already on, was it 18th or 19th of March?
Yep.
March 18th, 19th, they said something wrong, and they had to backpedal and backtrack. That makes you look like you're not so credible, right? Now I have to question everything about him from here on out. But the pressure is there. But even though, I hate to say it this way, but it's true, even without Otani, the Dodgers are still a World Series contending team. So I don't see him stopping them from winning a World Series so much itself. And even if he doesn't really perform well, I don't think there's much pressure for him still too, because they can still win it without him. So even with him there, I do see them winning at least 1 or 2 for sure. And people are going to say, yeah, way more than that. I understand. Let's slow down a bit, but at least 1 or 2 I'm expecting from this.
Well, Todd, I'll put this one to you, and Rob, if you want to chime in as well. We talk about Otani, or at least I have, about being aloof and maybe saying the wrong things. Well, Otani, in a weird way, has kind of done that a few times when he was with the Angels. At the end of last year with the whole elbow thing, the rumors in the PR department was the Angels and Perry Manassian wanted him to get testing done on the elbow to see what the situation was. He said, no, I'm fine. I'm going to continue pitching. He couldn't figure out the truth. Then this offseason, he got married. Oh, I married a casual woman. She's a professional basketball player. That seems a little bit of a shift. There's other times where Otani has said a couple things and it hasn't really been the full. I don't want to say he's lied, but it's like, I don't know if it's somebody coming over from another country and maybe doesn't know the ways of how we talk in America and exaggeration and different things. But then there's some things I look at, like the elbow injury last year. He set the timeline to when he pitched. He did this, he did that. He didn't care what anybody told him. Now, of course, when it comes to a legal situation, he's listening to his lawyers and he's not going to be, I'm the $700 million man, you work for me. It's now, I'm going to shy up, I'm going to clam up and listen to my lawyers. I know it's a law situation and you want your lawyers to be in charge in this situation, but it just kind of, when we look at some examples back in the day, even though they're not as harsh, it seems like there is some lost in translation situations.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like Rob was talking about with the media and like how you're talking right now. Everything is magnified more in LA because obviously we're not LA. We didn't know about any of his, what he did. I mean, they didn't even report. We heard from fans when they'd see him in the OC. The media is just not right there. LA is the closest thing to the New York media. Look how they hound the Lakers. Look how they hound the Dodgers and other teams in the LA market. The pressure to win is great. So they're going to be all up in your ass at all times. And with this coming out, you can't look the other way. There's a huge Asian community, and they want to know about him and they want to be close to him because he's one of the fellow countrymen when they come over here. And so there's this whole allure with that, and the fact that the Dodgers have built in themselves a good international fan base because they have players from all over, and so they're representing several countries. It's a multicultural team, just like the city. And then you have that media crush upon it to where, when you're great, they'll pump you up. But when you're down or you do something bad, they'll rip you to shreds. Maybe not as much as the New York media, but they do a lot here in LA. And, he's, like you said, there can't be things lost in translation. He can't have those goof ups like he would here and the laugh it off moments when he had his interpreter Ippei, now the new interpreter here in LA. He's got to come with it hard. He's got to have facts. He can't goof up because the LA market will not let him forget those type of things. Or if he has a struggle like he did here in Anaheim, where he had a rough April, the Angel fans were complaining because his helmet was spinning all the time because he was striking out so violently. Is that going to fly there at Dodger Stadium? I don't think so.
I think it's not going to fly if the Dodgers are losing. Like Rob said, the Dodgers on paper are still a World Series contending team, even if you take Shohei Otani out of the conversation. They have Mookie Betts, no pun intended, Freddie Freeman, Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez, and they have a whole litmus of extra players depth-wise on this organization. So with or without him, they are a contending team. If Otani hurts the Dodgers product and causes them to lose and causes a stir, then you're going to see, I think, the media really flare up and be like, I think it's going to be, if Otani starts slow, I don't think it's going to be more of the LA media that gets to him because they're going to love him no matter what, like we did as the Angels. I think it's going to be more of the mass media saying, was he really worth the $700 million with an April where he batted .220 with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs? Like, I think it's more of a mass media instead of a local media problem until you get to the moment where Game 7 of the World Series, Otani's on the mound and he throws up rocks and it's awful and the Angels knock him out in the first inning of the World Series with 10 runs. Unless it's something that bad, I don't think the LA media is going to give him a nice butt whooping in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing that's going to be heard is the outside noise. If he struggles, or the team struggles itself, he'll get the blame for it, for bringing this cloud over the team and saying he's the big distraction. But other than that, yeah, I don't see much going on there with LA wise.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go for it, Rob.
I didn't know they were actually roommates and actually lived together. I thought Ippei was married.
No, I thought I always knew they were together as friends. We knew they kind of went everywhere together. So yeah. I always assumed when he was here that they were together. But now that we know Otani is married, has a wife, where has she been in this whole conversation? She had been in Japan. Like, have they had like some long distance relationship over the last, 6+ years? Or, we really don't know the timeline of when they started dating and became a couple and got married and stuff like that. So it's like, has this been a long distance relationship while she's been a pro basketball player in Japan and he's out here? Does he go home and they only see each other in the off season? Like, I've always wondered that because she never came out to Angel games. And if she did, they never said she was here or in a suite, or they must have kept this under wraps, because that's where I would like to see the inner workings of like Mike Trout. Hey, did you know Otani had a girlfriend and a fiance and a wife? Like, because that was not something we knew at all until, what was it? He releases the information at like 11 o'clock at night when everybody's sleeping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was just thinking overall, like if they are actually living together, I mean, Otani has a pretty good case on his hands, to be honest with you. You just say, hey, I left my computer open. He knows my password. He uses my computer from time to time, and so happens to be my computer password and my password for my bank account's the same one.
And even though if that works for him, and if that's an argument, doesn't that, I think it then goes to the court of public opinion of, wow, Otani really is aloof. He really is, trusting. He doesn't have a good character of judging people, or, that goes in the court of public opinion. That really doesn't matter much. That's just our individual opinions on him. But if that's the case and they were living together and they use that as a defense, then for sure use that. If you're the lawyers of Otani, use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good thing. I mean, if you guys are right with that, if they could use that whole like roommate thing, because yeah, I mean, they were essentially a couple always hanging out, like Ippei was even his driver for a little while. So I mean, like, because I know Otani wasn't driving by himself over here. He's a rock star, so he had probably a few private security guards plus Ippei driving him around and hanging out all the time. So you never know, because we weren't told, you know what I mean? Like our media, like I said over and over, our media sucks. They just want final scores. They want to know if we're going to get a player or not. That's not even that much big news to them. There isn't that hankering for news. And like, now we know about the whole situation with his wife here in LA. We found out right away, he bought the car. Maybe he did nice things like that for some of the teammates here in Anaheim, but we just never heard about it. There wasn't that interest to put it out there. But it's just crazy, because something like this were to come out that was happening in 2021. Now let's go back to the Angels here for a second. Mm-hmm. If this started in 2021, like they said, or maybe as far back as 2019, don't you think with everything that Artie knows, everyone feeds him every little shred of information? Like Fernando said that he knows what's in every like freaking soda machine there. Don't you think he would have known about this as well? Because we all feel he knew about the drug scandal and all about the other stuff that was backhanded that he's been a part of. But what if he knew about this too and was just like, well, it's unfinished business, just let it go?
Could that potentially get him out of Anaheim faster?
Please?
I'm not gonna lie. I was really hoping this was happening under the Angels' watch, and like Artie was like the ringleader of it or something. We all had that hope and dream that first night when the story was breaking. But if Artie claims he knows everything in this organization, then he should have had that spy chip in Otani's laptop or his accounts or something. But I think objectively, if this is happening behind closed doors and privately with Ippei only, I'm going to guess Artie probably knows nothing. Objectively speaking. I'm going to say he probably knows nothing.
I
wish.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to say because you look at the Angels knew about Skaggs. Everyone knew where to get it. Other teams knew where to come, who to go to. So it's not so far-fetched to say that Artie actually knew about this. And like you said, hey, you want to keep the unicorn happy, just turn a blind eye. I don't see this. I don't hear it. I'm out of here. That's why he probably stayed in Arizona for the past couple of years because he knew this was going on. But anyways, I'm just saying, don't put it past Artie to have known about this and just look the other way.
No,
and hopefully that is enough to get him out of here.
Who knows? Maybe Roger Lodge knew something about this at the end of the day. You know?
Oh, I bet. You mean
Yeah.
you know he did the other day too, which pissed me off. He interviewed Artie and he was like, "Hey, I'll tell you this. I'm not concerned about the players who haven't signed or who are not a part of this team. I only care about what Ron Washington can get out of this team right now." And then Artie fired back with, "I totally agree. I think that the entertainment comes when the team plays better." And he never said anything about winning. He was just talking about entertainment again.
Yeah,
it's
a welcome to the 3-ring circus we call the Angels. Like this is how it's been for for the last decade. It just progressively got worse and worse. The only thing positive about this Otani story as an Angel fan, we're not the PR department that's dealing with this because if we think the Dodgers PR department hasn't done great things right on the onset, you can only imagine what the Angels PR, how they would have fumbled the beginning of this at the beginning. Wow. Oh my gosh. The Angels PR department would have been in shambles.
Oh yeah. They would have probably put Ippei's face on a Pachanga casino
you know. Man, he would have gone in hiding. He would have not been the opening day starter for the Angels. They would have put him in a vault somewhere. The Angels PR department would have been in shambles. You know, a lot of people probably would have turned a blind eye to it because for the amount of time Otani was on the Angels, he had built so many relationships with the players, with the organization, with the TV media. And we knew if we as fans knew while Otani was an Angel, he could do no wrong. He was a polite guy. He was funny. He was the teammate of all teammates. You could imagine what the broadcast team, Mark Gubaza, Kent French, all these guys thought of Otani when they interviewed him. If we thought he could do no wrong, he was God's gift to other people. So if we had to ask him questions about this, I think the Angels media, Erica Weston, all these people would have shied away and not really asked real questions. And I think it would have been an even more PR nightmare. I really do believe that because you would have got the benefit of the doubt of your lovable friend who's been or like family member who's been living with you for 7 years and you feel you know him and it's like family, it's our blood. You can't take sides against the family and you're not going to question him and you're going to try to find 10,000 ways to blame everybody else but him or even question him. So thankfully in this regard, the Dodgers media department can handle this one. The Angels can get a break for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean they could probably they're wiping their foreheads right now because they're way in over their head no matter what they do over there at Anaheim because they're so like they've got enough to deal with Artie. At some point that's going to hit the fan, and there's a lot going on down the pipe with this team. Mm-hmm. So the only thing I think Artie's enjoying right now from his Arizona suite is the fact that, hey, the heat's off me for a minute. The season's going to start. We're not signing free agents, and the Dodgers are in all kinds of crap right now. he's like, boy, do I look like a genius right now for not re-signing him.
Well, here's the question. Is Artie Moreno, which we know probably the answer is going to be no, going to be in attendance for when Otani makes his return to Angel Stadium tomorrow? Especially with this. I don't think so. And
avoid the booze.
And I'm going to double down. I think Shohei Otani doesn't play tomorrow. I think Dave Roberts purposely does not put him in the lineup.
Yeah. I don't see how you would anyway because this is the last game before the season starts, right?
Yeah.
So,
he doesn't want him in Orange County to go place another bet.
He's going to take that ride down the 5, go to Pachanga. AM830 sponsor.
He's going to take the AM830 van. You should see all the comments. We've been getting blown up here. We usually engage them, but since we're doing like a spontaneous live, it's good. We're looking at them as we go along. Facebook user said, I totally agree with I totally believe Ippei's first story to ESPN. That sort of got the ball rolling with this because it's kind of hard to dispute that right there. A lot of people were making fun of the LA Anaheim thing, but hey, that wasn't our call as Angel fans. This wasn't our call to be called the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
that was an arty thing. We'd still like to have California, believe me. Just
yeah, California or Anaheim or something other than LA. I think we'd be happy with at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Eric Ward says, has the season started tomorrow yet?
Yeah, well, you already know. I don't know if you already saw, guys, that the weather report in Baltimore on Thursday is supposed to be thunderstorm and pouring.
Really?
So opening day is probably not going to be till Friday.
Well, see, here's my question to you guys. I hate why the MLB does this. They'll do that opening day for a few teams and then just give
a day
off and then start the other.
Stupid.
It is ridiculous because back in my day, the Cincinnati Reds were your leadoff. You know what I mean? Like they were the start of the season no matter what. And then you have everyone else play afterwards. Now you have the South Korea series, and now you come back here for more preseason. And
I think the Korea series is even worse because it's like you play 2 games, you have to come back and play a week of spring training, and then you go right back into it. I'm like, why couldn't you just do the Korea series like right before the All-Star break or right after the All-Star break? Like figure out a time to take some days off.
And correct, I didn't pay attention to what happened to the Dodgers or the Padres roster. Did they already have to trim down for the season roster and then add some guys back for spring training when they got back, or how did that work?
I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
That's terrible.
So it's like you're already kind of foreshadowing the future with everybody else of what we're going to do so everybody can game plan to that moving forward. At least for the opening day, opening series or something. But okay, that makes again, Rob Manfred making perfect sense here in Major League Baseball. Yeah, so the Angels are probably going to start till Friday. So the season will start Friday. We'll go with that.
Good. I like it better that way. Get it rolling the right way.
Yeah, that should work. And then as long as there's no rain for that Friday, and then I think when we come home, it's on a Friday too, right?
Yeah. The Angels are going to Baltimore and Boston, I believe. Is that the opening?
I think it's it is Baltimore,
Tampa.
Boston, or it's Tampa. It's Tampa. It's Tampa. Home for Boston. So
yeah. Oh no, Miami. Pardon me, it's Miami.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Interleague right after. So Baltimore, Miami, you come home for Boston and Tampa.
That's going to be interesting.
Hey, I don't think the Angels play an AL West team until May.
Sounds about right.
It's this season, last year was the first year of the schedule being, everybody plays everybody. I think that was the tester year. Mm-hmm. And looking at how the schedules are lined up, it's going to be very different this year with how they kind of back-ended a lot of divisional games into the second half of the season. I think for that more competitive balance. So it could be a little challenge. Maybe does it actually favor the Angels? Who the hell knows?
But here's my thing: if the Angels were ever to contend again, I mean, these games when you actually play a Texas, a Houston, a Seattle, those are games that you'd be like, oh, I could see them, 5 or 6 times during the year. They play 19 times. With the unbalanced schedule, they only play 2 and 2 at each other's home. So it's like, for me, if the Angels were contending in a team that's trying to get to first place, I, as a fan, as I am, I'm putting money away for the Seattle Mariners when they come here because it's like, man, we got to get those games. Those games are important now.
And Oakland. Oakland, you should not be losing to Oakland. So these are the games that is going to really competitively balance. Again, maybe we'll parlay our bets and see what happens. We're going to be talking. We're going to be, we're going to be punting this stuff all season long. I think we got to have every post game show, live stream, or whatever we do. We need to have a parlay bet counter of how many times we make puns about gambling, because at this point it's going to be top notch this year. 2024 is off to a hot start.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
Maybe the Dodgers should put slot machines next to the those open bars in right and left field. You know,
If only the Las Vegas A's were starting this year and the Dodgers were opening in Vegas this year, the jokes would have wrote themselves, my friend. Come on.
yeah.
But it's going to be wild. I think regardless of Otani, if he's a gambler, if Ippei is the mastermind behind it all, at the end of the day, someone's coming out of this looking like a donkey. And it's going to be Ippei. He's going to be prime suspect number one. But even if Otani at the end of the day is not convicted of anything, he still comes out looking like a donkey in the court of public opinion for how aloof he's acting and how trusting he was to what the world is like here in 2024. I think that's what we can maybe circle around and say the central theme is at the end of the day. Because for you to allow, again, $4.5 million to just fly away, I'd be finding somebody and murdering somebody, because that just, you do not let $4.5 million go away that easy.
No, not at all.
So. In the coming days, so I guess to wrap this up, in the coming days, we'll find out more about what's going to really happen with this, but it'll be interesting. It's definitely not a story that's going to go away. I just hope that there's some Kenny Rogers played in some of these stadiums when Otani's on the mound or getting ready to hit.
If any team's going to do it, it's going to be the San Francisco Giants.
Oh, they've got to.
They are.
Oh, that'd be the best.
The Padres.
The Padres going to have to do it. The Angels are going to be too nice to do it. When he comes in September, they're going to be super nice. They're going to roll out the welcome mat for Shohei Otani. It is going to be what it is. If Otani plays tomorrow in the final preseason game and he gets at least one at bat, I really do believe they're going to be nice. And Angels are going to fake it as if nothing happened. And we miss you, Otani. We love you. Tip your cap. The Angels game day staff is not going to do anything about this to make a joke of it. They're not going to, because Otani has not said anything really negative about the Angels. So I think in return, in good faith, they're not going to do anything negative to Otani.
True.
But you're going to definitely have to take Ippei out of any photo or video montage of Otani. And that's going to be hard to do.
That will be.
Man.
Oh, man.
Call up Randy, edit that out.
Yeah, Randy's got to go down there and show him how it's done. That's
exactly.
For real.
Man. But all right, man. We're gonna have some honks out there that are, gonna be supporting them, and like Wheezy on here said, you have to boo him. I doubt the boos will be as loud as the cheers. They're gonna love him. He gave us some good times. Let's just give you that. I have mixed emotions about it. Like, I still feel like if we opened up an Angels restaurant, he'd be Trader Tots. You know what I mean, with Otani's face. But
he would.
But I think so. I mean,
we didn't even offer him a contract. I mean, how could he be a trader when Artie Moreno didn't even entertain the idea of trying to sign him? That's just, it's like getting mad that you didn't get the car, but you didn't offer to buy the car. So how are you going to get something if you don't even offer him to buy it?
I really think it's because he went to the Dodgers. And
it is.
I think it's if he went to any other team but the Dodgers, maybe the Yankees, maybe we would have had a mini conversation about it. But any team other than the Dodgers or the Yankees, I think we wouldn't care as much that he left. Yeah, I think it's because it's in our market, and we have to get our, ass in our face every time that he does something great with the Dodgers, and it's close proximity gets us the issue.
Yeah, it's like if a girl you're dating just up and leaves you for someone way better, more money, better looking, a bodybuilder, just like, it's like, great, and then he lives down the street from you and you see your girl all the time. It's like, damn it, dude, like, leave me alone. Like, I'm not trying to stalk you and you're still in my face. But
we stepped on our own. Well, sorry, we made the mistake. I don't want to say that on there live, but we made the mistake by not trading him. And Perry Manassian had those trades done to Baltimore, to Tampa Bay. But yeah, I'm so happy I'm not on camera right now, by the way. But but we had it right. It was our fault.
Yeah.
Well, even if Perry wanted to do it, Artie wasn't going to sign off on it because we already heard Perry's like, we need to get Snell, we need to get JD Martinez, we have deals in place, and Artie said no. I think we could be talking in the long haul of things. At the end of this year, Perry Manassian could be gone. I don't know how much we've really talked about this offseason. Is this Perry Manassian swan song in his contract as a GM of the Angels? Could we be looking for another GM yet again with Artie Moreno still at the helm?
I think so.
Yeah.
More
I would
tall,
leave.
you're not getting free agents that you want that could benefit this team. And, hey, the Angels beat the Dodgers tonight 6-0. Whoopie-doo. Great. We could actually take one in the Freeway Series this year.
Wow.
Is Blake Snell or JD Martinez really going to push the needle for the Angels this year? We're never going to know the answer to that question. But who knows? Maybe what the team has on paper right now and on the field is going to produce more than what most people think. Because we're projected to have 73 wins this year. I think we could do better. I think we're going to do better than 73.
Here's my thing. I think the Giants are what I'm jealous of was what the Angels should have did. Fall into some of those free agents. They had the money to get those free agents. Giants didn't spend a whole lot of money. Maybe you can argue Snell, but the other guys didn't. They filled holes that they needed to be filled. And I think that team's young around each other. They're in a tough division, granted, with the Padres and the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. But watch them compete and watch them be really fun on a nightly basis. And if we're sitting here mired like with 67, 70 wins, and the Giants are at least right there at 84, 85, pushing for a spot or maybe just getting into a wild card spot, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be like, that should have been us, because I believe with the young talent that's on this team and a couple of starters would have just pushed us over that edge of giving us a chance to compete, because not necessarily making the playoffs, but being damn near close or maybe sliding in on a technicality, because we have a bunch of 3s and 4s, if that, in the rotation. We don't have even a 2. And I just find it hard for us to compete this year. But I look at what the Giants did, and they're not going to be done. They're probably going to pick up another pitcher at the deadline because they've got some minor league, pieces to trade. And if they're in it, they're going to go for it. And that should be us.
Hey, Mike Moustakas is available.
Yeah, I would take him back for leadership just right there.
The moose is loose, and maybe we get him. Who knows? But, if the Angels – I've said this, and I'll make it short because I know we're going to do a season preview show.
Correct. Look for that on Wednesday, by the way.
I think if the Angels – what was it last year? We had 73 wins overall at the end of last year, 73 or 75, whatever it was. I think Ron Washington just himself can get us 10 more wins. Because how many games did Phil Nevin lose us potentially last year? If the Angels, I really think if the Angels can win 10 or 12 more games than they did last year, that would get us to about 83, 85. And then you sprinkle in some extra games that you probably shouldn't win that you do. Maybe you're in contention for a wild card at the end of the day. And again, that's if healthy and different things happen. But who knows? Ron Washington has Anthony Rendon leading off right now. I really do believe strange things are going to happen this year. And it might not be for the worse if it's Ron Washington making those decisions. Just saying. True. You never know.
Well, if you like the content on here today, follow us wherever you can. Subscribe and like on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. We're going to try to get this going too on X. And also, what's the other one? Not Discord. It's TikTok. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah. We got multiple platforms we can put this on. We're just trying them out to see how it runs. But we've been doing every day podcasts on YouTube. And then we're going to have the post-game shows. We're going to have the roundtable talking about the upcoming season, kind of breaking down the month of April, the starting lineup, the rotation, and just to see what's going on with the bullpen, where we can, basically just breaking the team down before the season starts.
Yeah.
Giving our individual takes and then making predictions, right, on how many wins we possibly can have going into the season.
Todd and I are going to put our heads together and figure out live streaming dates.
Yes, we're going to have some live streams. What is it? At least once a month, right?
At least once a month, but I think we can, we'll talk. We can maybe swing 2.
Yeah. which is what we did last year. We did those, watch alongs where, you're reacting with us, watching the game, we putting up the stats. So there's a lot of cool stuff. And I know Big 20's hammering for some phone calls, no pun intended, but those will start in the regular season because that's when the post games and all that other stuff.
All I know is that everything that Todd just said, you can bet that we're going to do it.
Oh, you could bet.
You can bet on it. There's the new slogan for Halos in the infield this year. If we can do it, you can bet on it.
There's got to be a way to get Otani saying bet in English. There has to be, but somewhere in the depths of the internet, it's happening right now.
It's
out there, right there. All right, so for Todd Fox and
Dominic Lorenz of Catella Chronicles
and
Rob from the middle of nowhere.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday on the live show.
Cheers.